Greetings from the Jazz Cloud. I'm Richie Zellin, welcoming you to the Jazz Guitar Channel. If you are getting started with jazz improvisation, or you've been at it for a while and you feel like you're not making significant progress, I want to clear up some common myths. The internet has some good info about jazz, but then again, there's lots of myths, half-truths, and general misinformation concerning the subject of improvisation. In this two-part series, I'd like to address several of these false concepts and clear up the facts. In this first part, I'm going to talk about 3 conceptual fallacies regarding the subject. In part 2, I will get into some of the more practical theory misconceptions out there, and I will demonstrate them with some playing examples, but today's subjects won't require any playing. So having said that, I'd like to start by addressing one of the most common conceptual myths: fallacy. Great jazz musicians always improvise on the spot from scratch. Fact, there is no such thing as pure improvisation. If you learn or simply analyze several solos by a given jazz artist, you'll find that he or she tends to repeat certain ideas and concepts adapted to new harmonies and rhythms. Everything a great improviser plays is the result of years of practicing and internalizing vocabulary which can then be adapted to the harmony of the moment. And the key word here is vocabulary, because jazz is a language. In the same manner as we speak English or any spoken language, we gradually need to build a vocabulary and understand its grammar. Likewise, to generate fluid jazz phrases on our instrument, an ongoing study of its vocabulary is a must. However, it's not about memorizing licks. First, we need to understand the harmonic and melodic makeup of those licks. This aspect is what I like to refer to as the grammar of jazz. When we speak a language, we conjugate verbs and understand the use of nouns, pronouns, adverbs, as well as commas and periods. Likewise, when we play, in order to create fluid jazz lines, we have to first understand how to organize and combine the notes in ways that not only they'll properly blend with the harmony at hand, but also be identified as jazz lines. A lack of this understanding is why many new improvisers complain that their lines don't sound like jazz. They're usually just running scales or relying on recalling a few memorized bebop licks. The mature improviser, on the other hand, knows how to adapt the jazz grammar from all those licks and solo transcriptions he's analyzed to build his own lines in the harmonic context of the moment. That is the closest anyone comes to pure jazz improvisation. And I remember Miles Davis saying in an interview something along the lines of, "If I play just one new idea for the night, I'm happy." Fallacy. You don't have to know theory to improvise. Just have a good ear. This is a half-truth. Of course, you can memorize a few scales from just reading tab, and if you have a good ear, you might come up with some lines that may even sound good. But when it comes to playing over jazz changes, you won't get very far, and the ideas will probably not sound like jazz, idiomatically speaking. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. So-and-so never studied theory, right? Wrong. He just played by ear and sounded great. Wrong. I wish I had $1 for every time I hear somebody claim that Wes Montgomery or Chet Baker just improvised by ear and did not know any theory. This is a half-truth. It stemmed from the fact that these players, like several others, couldn't sight-read music. But the truth is that they knew lots of theory, knew their respective instruments very well, and as correctly stated, they did have great ears, which is very important, if not the most important resource. As a matter of fact, there is a great video of Wes in Amsterdam, I think, where he is rehearsing with some local musicians for a TV show, and you hear him explaining the changes to his tune to the pianist. Furthermore, there is evidence of some sophisticated harmony in several of his compositions, as well as the standards he played. And the same can be said regarding Chet Baker. And this alone is evidence of an understanding of theory. So in conclusion, this fallacy should be corrected with the following statement. Fact. You don't have to be able to sight read music to be a good improviser, but you need to know your instrument and develop your ear coupled with an understanding of jazz theory. Another related misconception is fallacy. Learning all those theory rules will stifle my creativity. Certain rules are necessary to establish a solid foundation and understanding of the music. Most students that I teach first come to me because when they attempt to improvise, their lines don't sound like jazz or they fail to get through the changes. It takes me a few minutes of listening to them play over a simple progression to identify the problem. It is usually due to the lack of understanding of one of these so-called rules. It might be a lack of proper voice leading at the point of chord change. It might be that they're resolving to notes that clash with the chord of the moment, or many other issues. So, wait a minute, what is going on here? These players are trying to get creative, but are failing to do so because they ignore certain theoretical rules that in turn were formulated to ensure that the music sounds good. Now, once we know these rules and have mastered them, only then can we explore when to break them. And when you do, you will do so aesthetically, with a goal in mind, and not because of a gap in your understanding of the music. So I would correct this fallacy with the following statement. Fact. To expand your creativity, first learn theory and understand its rules, and once mastered, feel free to break the rules. Let's conclude with a common myth that is responsible for many aspiring jazz students giving up on their dream. Fallacy. Great improvisers have innate talent. Fact. Talent is developed. We are a product of our environment and how we respond to it. A classic example is Mozart. From the moment he was born, his surrounding environment was music. Almost as soon as he could walk and talk, his musical training began. If you have that kind of a head start with a supportive environment and respond to it by doing the work, of course your talent is going to develop threefold, and you're going to be a genius in comparison to the rest. And this is the case with many jazz virtuosos. If you do your research, you'll find out that they had their start in a very supportive environment. And those who started late, they put in a great amount of study and practice to make up for lost time. And I'm sure you're aware of some of them, and I encourage you to share the names of those jazz artists with us in the comments in the section down below. Throughout my teaching career, I've witnessed evidence of these situations time and time again. A new student will start out and he'll pick up everything really quickly, especially by ear. When I inquire about his upbringing, I find out that he either had several years studying another instrument when he was young, or he was brought up in an environment where his parents were always listening to jazz. On the other hand, I get others that have difficulty feeling swing rhythms or hearing the changes. When I inquire about their background, I'm not surprised to learn that they had no musical training growing up and were only first exposed to jazz as adults. And if this is your case, don't let that deter you from learning jazz. You would be surprised to hear how many students with more talent due to their supportive environment simply take it all for granted. They get lazy and choose not to take their abilities to the next level. On the other hand, you would also be surprised to hear how many students who might not display initial talent take responsibility, consistently work hard, and in a couple of years reach beyond the level of their initially talented peers. Remember, talent is developed, and if your environment is not conducive to its development, it is ultimately how you respond that will determine whether or not you succeed in this endeavor. You might be too old to become a virtuoso, but jazz is not a competition sport, and if you're willing to put in some time with the proper guidance, you can definitely become good enough to enjoy playing this music. And if you need that guidance, you can count on me to be your mentor. Over my years as a jazz educator, I have developed several courses geared to help aspiring jazz guitarists take their playing to the next level. All of this is available through the Bebop Guitar Improv series, which consists of 6 books and hundreds of step-by-step video tutorials featuring the proven resources that you'll need to learn and practice the art of jazz improvisation on guitar. For more info, please visit bebopguitar.richiezelland.com. You will find a direct link in the info section down below. Don't miss part 2 of this series, as I will touch upon several controversial jazz theory misconceptions which could very well be limiting your progress as an improviser. As usual, I thank you for your comments and likes and welcome your questions. And if this is your first time on the Jazz Guitar channel and you enjoyed this lesson, please be sure to subscribe and click on the notification bell icon so you won't miss any of my upcoming lessons. Until then, be good, stay safe, and may peace be with you.